What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video going over the Monday night game between the Dolphins and the Rams. On paper, this one looks like it could be a really good one if Tyreek Hill is in, where you have the battle of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle versus Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. And then you have Devon Achane and Kyren Williams, two very versatile dual threat running backs. And then Tua and Matt Stafford. This seems like a very, Sean McVay and Daniels on the other side. This one could be really, really good. And I'll probably be disappointed by the end of the night. But before we get into this, just go over my double up line. I kind of usually go over some of these lines. Some I just don't want to ever see again. But I did cash. This is the massive double up. I recommend it every week. Just go over it really quick and then we'll get back into it. Luckily I went the Purdy route. I stacked it with George Kittle. That was pretty much it. Did not go with a run back on Tampa Bay's side. Played the cash in Taysom Hill, played the cash in Josh Downs, played the cash in Aaron Jones. Those are my guys that I expected ownership of. And then went different with New England off the Bears, which pretty much was the deciding factor for a lot of lineups. The Patriots got 16 points, Bears got 4, 12 points, or I think 10 or 12 point swing was kind of the deciding factor. So if you went Patriots over Bears, probably cash based off of lineups. But, I played Shakir, I played Demario Douglas, I played George Kittle, I played Breece Hall. Those are my guys, that I expected to be lower owned. And it was an ugly slate overall. Like, quarterback-wise, I don't think it was bad. Running back-wise, it was. If you played Bijan, you had a really good week, or James Conner, you had a really good week. If you played, Breece Hall, Aaron Jones, I even think Jonathan Taylor, Kamara, a lot of those guys, DeAndre Swift had bad weeks. Wide receivers, no one really had a crazy good game for the wide receivers. If you were a sick bastard and played MVS in cash, which I think it was like 0.3 did, which you're a sick bastard forever playing that. If you play them in tournaments, go right ahead, right? I don't think there's ever a problem with anybody in tournaments, right? Because even if something looks bad, it's going to be low owned. If they pop off, you have that. So that was it. A nice cash week. So getting back into why you guys are here, going over this. If you guys want, my official player pool and who I'm liking, my bets and props, as well as our FanDuel side, check out our website. That will be in the description. Going over it now, Kyren Williams is just on a tear as far as volume, right? Just gets so much volume. I've seen the last 4 weeks get over 20 carries. The receiving part is kind of where it gets different. But since, Puka and Cooper Kupp have both returned, Rams scored 20 plus points. Looked pretty good. Now, obviously, with that, you get Puka and Cooper Kupp, so the touchdowns won't always be as there. But, Kyren Williams was on a 8-game touchdown streak, but he just gets so much volume. It is tricky on this one, seeing he is 10-8. You have someone like Devon Achane, who's $1,400 cheaper, and you kind of look at where he's been since Tua's been back, right? 32 and 26 points. You go back to the beginning of the season, 23 and 29. This right here is Tua not being there. So when having Tua, 7 targets, 8 targets, 8 targets. Like Devon Achane has been a target machine. If Tyreek Hill is out, that's even a more positive for Achane. If he's in, it's still not a minus, right? I don't think it's a minus. I only think it gets better if Tyreek's out. Just because you're going to have to look at the running back a little more. But if we're talking about guy with touchdown upside, Kyren's definitely there. If we're talking about a guy that gets so much volume, Kyren is that guy. We've seen Miami kind of play against the run pretty decently this season. Haven't really seen it a whole lot, though. I think they're like a bottom 10 team in rushing attempts again. So teams aren't rushing the ball as much to get that. But going next, if Tyreek Hill's in, I think Tyreek Hill's an amazing play, right? Just a good matchup for him. Kind of seen him since Tua's been back struggle. Early on in the season, kind of the same thing. Had a really good week 1. Thankfully, I did play him in DFS that week. And then in the primetime game, Tua goes down just still against the Bills. two of the 4 games Tyreek Hill has had with Tua, it's been against the Bills where Tua has struggled. Other than that, 6 for 72 against Arizona, and 7 for 130 against Jacksonville. So some opportunities there with the Rams defense. Obviously, the Rams pass rush is pretty good, but their secondary has some holes. I definitely will say that. But yeah, I think Tyreek Hill it does not matter his matchup. He's just going to do what he does when he gets the ball, right? I think we all know how much of a threat he is. He's just got to get the ball. Cooper Kupp in an amazing matchup here in 9,800. I mean, if we're talking about where a player lines up, right? He lines up in the slot. That's where Miami gives up a lot of their yardage. Obviously, you have Jalen Ramsey, you have Fuller as the 2 outside guys, but Kupp pretty much lines up in the slot. I think it's 70% of the time he lines up in the slot. Versus someone like Puka Nacua, which is, I believe, 20 to 25% is kind of where he gets in the slot. So he's going to see a lot of Jalen Ramsey and Fuller. But Puka Nacua, I mean, has just been on a tear. I mean, last week gets ejected, but, I mean, still gets 4 targets. So very clear that Stafford wants to get Puka involved. I think Puka is very good about not caring, who his matchup is. He's going to get open. So I do like Cooper Kupp over Nacua. If you need to save $800, you could go there. And then I mentioned Devon Achane. I think with Tua and Achane is a very good play. Tua is a playable for me, right? Now, if we're getting down to who do we play, because you can't pay up for all these guys, it is tough, right? You have Raheem Mostert there for Miami, been a very good goal line back. You look at the Rams side, Kyren Williams has been a really good goal line back. Who do you want to take the risk on? And Stafford is $600 cheaper. Obviously, Tua's facing a Rams secondary that's kind of iffy. If Tyreek's out, then I think it gets pretty clear that we're playing Stafford over Tua. But that doesn't mean the pass catchers for Miami suffer any, right? Devon Achane is getting 8 targets. Hill and Waddle will get theirs. So if we're talking about this one, I would rather take the risk on Stafford, who you look at the 3 games when Stafford has had Puka and Kupp versus, I mean, there's been injuries, so you can't give it too much, but you look at it, week 1 against Detroit, 49 targets, or pass attempts, so 49 targets for the team, but 317 passing yards, only 1 passing touchdown, gets you 18 points. You go to the last 2 weeks where they get them back, right? 34 passing attempts for 279 yards and 4 touchdowns. 44 pass attempts, 298 yards and 2 touchdowns. Obviously, he's throwing some picks, but Matt Stafford is going to throw the ball. You face Ramsey and Fuller, there's a good chance you have a couple interceptions. That's definitely possible, but he is throwing the ball quite a bit when having both those guys in. So I do like Stafford over Tua, especially if Tyreek Hill is out. Now, Raheem Mostert, he's getting his opportunities. We clearly see he's getting his opportunities. But for the upside, it's Achane. He's just too expensive on this one. If he was around the $6K to about $5,500 range, he'd be a perfect play tonight. It doesn't say I'm not playing, Raheem Mostert. I'm going to have exposure to him. I'm just going to be less on Raheem Mostert than the field, more than likely. The touchdown upside is definitely there for Raheem Mostert. I mentioned I think he's a good goal line back. It's just the teams they've played haven't gotten those opportunities as much. But he, at his price point, right, Jalen Waddle, if Tyreek Hill is out, is cheaper. Kind of seen Jalen Waddle not really being used at all this season, which is scary. But yet again, 2 of those games is against Buffalo. So you have to put that into consideration. The other 2, I mean, not for his price point, but for his price point tonight, it's definitely worth going after. So I'm playing Waddle over Mostert, especially for the price point. Demarcus Robinson is the next guy. He's getting saw a huge amount of snaps last week, and that could have been because Puka got ejected. But the second most snaps for wide receivers. Yet again, he's going to be seeing that other side. He's going to be seeing Ramsey and Fuller, so it is a tough matchup for him, but the upside has been there for him. The kickers are kind of iffy for me. If we're being honest, you just get two really high-powered offenses, both scoring above 50%, which is both defenses are kind of at that 50% as well. It's pretty even, so that means either teams are scoring that game or they're not scoring in the red zone. But I mean, we could just see the scores, for the Rams in the last 2 weeks with getting their talent back. We got a 46 total. Week 8 against Minnesota, we get a 50. We go to Miami side for it. Since Tua has been back, we get a 57 total and a 55 total. So the scoring has been there for both teams. If I'm picking one, I'm just going to pick the cheaper kicker. Sorry, I don't know why that was so hard to try to say. Cheaper kicker at home. I'm just going to go Cardi and just go with it, right? But I do think someone like Juanu Smith is in a really good opportunity for his price point at 4,400. Look at Juanu Smith. He's secretly the last 4 weeks been on a tear. 2 of those weeks are with Miami. Has a very good opportunity against a Rams defense that gives up quite a bit of fantasy points to opposing tight ends. A lot of people were worried with Odell being there. I think Kraft just got announced back as well. So, there's a number of guys trying to get that third wide receiver. But as far as the third target for a non-running back for Miami, it seems like it's Juanu Smith, right? He's seen more opportunities than Jalen Waddle. So I definitely think it's a very good game script for Juanu Smith. Maybe they go and attack and they go secondary a lot, so they're going, Waddle, Tyreek Hill, but Juanu Smith I think is in a good spot. I'm not really looking at the defenses. If I'm going to look at one, it's the Rams, but I'm going to be very low on defenses tonight. The only reason the Rams, they've gotten a couple more sacks, few interceptions, but I mean, 3 against Vegas, 3 against Seattle, pretty much everywhere else, not much. Miami's defense has just not gotten any pass rush, but the interception upside is there tonight facing Matt Stafford. I just don't want to have much exposure to these defenses. Thankfully, and it'll probably bite me in the ass. He'll probably have his best game of the season. Colby Parkinson does not have a good matchup. I mentioned it. If you've been following me, I've mentioned it for weeks. Colby Parkinson has a good matchup. Probably not going to do much. Has a good matchup. Probably not going to do much. He's got a tough matchup for one. So be weary there. We go and look like Tutu Atwell. Probably, between him and Johnson, going to be seeing snaps, but it's going to be Robinson, Kupp, Puka, Robinson will be the top 3, and then Tutu, Whittington, Johnson. Those guys are going to be fighting for snaps. So I'd rather pay down for Whittington or Johnson, but I mean it's not pretty, right? I want to get exposure to more of the higher end guys there on the Rams pass catchers. So yeah, it's very tough for the Rams side. For Miami side, you get Odell Beckham Jr., Malik Washington, both kind of priced around the same. Both these guys competing for those snaps. So I definitely want to get some exposure to them, but not being overly rostered, just because neither one. I mean, go and look. Odell's got 7 targets on the season. Saw 3 last week against Buffalo, but 4.5 points. Malik Washington, kind of same thing. 4 targets on the season. So, Juanu Smith kind of is that other pass catcher for him. Backup running backs, like Blake Corum for his price point. The thing you have to take into consideration with playing someone like Blake Corum is Kyren Williams is going to get a lot of opportunities. Blake Corum's got a few. The only way this pays off is if Kyren gets banged up, which he's been, for the most part, a very healthy back for the Rams. We had the scare in the offseason or preseason about Kyren. Didn't mean anything. So, Blake Corum, he's the next guy up for the Rams, but Kyron's got to get hurt for that to happen. He just not a lot of opportunity there for him. I will go down here. We'll go down. River Craft, believe, is activated for this game. He filled in quite nice for Miami last season. Got some opportunities, kind of worked out. Wasn't anything crazy, but I will mention it for 200. I will mention it for 200 that he's there. He exists if he is officially active for the game, which I believe he is. So, hope you guys did enjoy it. I hope you guys had a good Sunday. I hope you came out on top. Obviously, it was a tougher slate. Honestly, it was very ugly. We didn't have a lot of high scoring guys, like I mentioned. But in this one, I'm hoping we get a good one. Last night's was crazy. I fell asleep pretty early in the game. I woke up and saw Stafford had Goff had 5 picks and they still won. So that game was crazy. I wish Nico Collins would have been in that one. I so wish he would have been in that one. And I'm hoping Tyreeks in this one. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys yet again for the support I continue to receive. And I will see you in the next one.